this will give you some insight needed to understand the level of This week we are inside because it's raining, so we're not on the roof. Sorry about that. Secondly, more importantly, this week, as a continuation from, was it Tracy's?
Yeah, I think it was Tracy. Apologies if it wasn't your question, Tracy.
Who we discussed last week, had lost 4 times in multiple offers. As of late, we wanted to elaborate on that segment of the market because she was obviously very surprised. We don't know who she's been working with. I'm sure they're a great agent. But clearly she has not been given the insight she needs into the momentum of the market right now, I would say. So we wanted to hammer down on how fast the market is moving right now, thus far into October.
Yeah, and we wanted to do so because we got a lot of feedback from you guys from last week's video there, and that was one of the main talking points as well. It turns out, Tracy, you are not alone, and there are multiple people who have missed out on multiple offers and fast sales as well. So it looks like a lot of people are still acclimatized that buyer's market, think they have all of the room in terms of pricing and they can just wait and everything will be fine. They haven't quite coped to the change to more of the balanced market. So
hopefully this will give you some insight needed to understand the level
Sorry. So this will give you a bit of an insight as to where the market is at now that we've entered more of a balanced market, and of course hopefully assist you with success in the market out there. So we focus on Vancouver East Side and West Side. So we've taken the figures from Vancouver East Side and West Side from October 1st to October 16th, the day of recording of this video. So that's what all of our numbers are based on. Jay, why don't you start off with the detached market?
Detached, so the house, the standalone home.
Single family home.
Single family home market. East Side and West Side, 16 days into October, we have 27 sales in the market. Now, 52% of that 27 sales sold in 2 weeks or less, which is very interesting. So the velocity of that market in general, dating back to if you list at a realistic number, is showing its head again, that if you list realistically, things will happen for you quickly. Of that, 14%, just over 14, I think 14.3% were listed prior and then reduced and relisted. So that's 51% of those sales took place in under 2 weeks. And of that, 14.3% were listed prior and brought back on to sell in that under 2 week window. Now the interesting thing is 22.5% of those sales, the total 27 sales, sold over ask.
Yeah, something we haven't heard for a long time.
Multiple offers in the detached housing market, which we've definitely not seen for a long time.
Exactly.
I've been in one myself actually in the last week.
Do you win?
No. We went in very subject heavy, subject to sale, and that's a whole long story. But they're out there, and that was in the $3.5 million range, which we did not see coming.
So that's something we should point out as well. When we say the detached market, we are talking about the entirety of the detached market. We haven't split this into just luxury, just entry level. What's interesting though is what you mentioned about sold in under 2 weeks, that the 14.3% of those were originally listed higher and then sold in under 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Meaning that, again, people are willing to pay
when the market value is clear.
Exactly. So, but yes, we've got some over ask, but for the majority of the time, people are willing to pay, but they're not willing to overpay.
Yeah.
So when you're priced right, it will happen relatively quickly.
Pricing right.
Yeah.
So they would have been done and gone, allowing them to move on to the next project or whatever they're doing in the next home in under 2 weeks. For the most part, 50% of them, had they have just listed appropriately the
first time.
Now, sometimes you need to hear it and see it and all that, but the numbers speak for themselves.
Yeah, and then it's similar story when we go into the attached market. Of course, a lot more sales. We're at 93 month to date sales, and 77% of those 93 sales, they were all sold in under 30 days. 70%, 77%, that's a pretty high number. So Of that 77%, just over 23, I think it was 23.6% of those were originally listed higher.
Yep.
Sat on the market, reduced, and then sold within 30 days. And then out of that entire 93 sold homes in October for the attached market, 53.8% of them sold in under 2 weeks. So, and again, not quite as high as the detached market, but 17.2% sold over ask.
That's still good. Both of them in 50% range, selling in under 2 weeks.
Yeah. Huge difference. And behind the numbers, you guys don't get to see this. It's a lot of it is sold in a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 600 days. Something ludicrous out there. There's no kind of in the middle. It's either within usually a month or they just sit on market for months on end. Proving again that if it's priced right, it will sell. If not, it will just sit on market unless you're part of the 17.2% who obviously have something special.
Yes.
Could be circumstance as well. But however, I think people don't realize that until you're playing in the market and you go through it, that things are moving and selling that fast. And all of these ones that sit on market, people are not even trying with. So if you're a buyer, there are likely multiple of you competing for those small amounts of units that you're actually looking for, which is what's encouraging things to go quickly. I mean, it's not uncommon for us to see something within the first week at the moment. We're sold with subjects removed in 7 to 10 days. Something like that.
Yeah, and like you said in last week's episode, the ones that are priced quickly, multiple people are approaching, and the ones that have been sitting there for 100, 200 days, people, for whatever reason, won't, if they assume they're not going to be realistic because the price is so high, or they assume there's something wrong with it, it hasn't sold, whatever it may be. The people who are serious buyer-wise are, of course, all focusing in on those ones that are hitting the market, they're fresh, they're priced sharply, and those are the ones they get.
Because I think behind the scenes the story is people will look on what's on the market. If something's priced ridiculous or it doesn't match what they're looking for, they won't buy anything, they'll just hold. So they'll hold and they'll be ready. Then as soon as something comes to market, you get a rush of people who are looking for it coming in straight away. So these people are all ready to buy, but they've been in a hold pattern throughout this time until the right property comes, and then they make a move quickly, which is what would explain the high amount of kind of like sold in under 2 weeks homes for both the attached and detached market as well.
Yeah, and as we've seen the trend kind of slow, we've seen obviously over the last, let's call it year, we've seen risen inventory, but there still hasn't been a lot of really good, really unique, really kind of sought after inventory come to market. And now that there's a bit of life in the market, when it does come, again, it's going quick. So if you're a buyer, like the question last week, you really need to understand that the market, talk about these numbers with your agent, or call us and we can go into these more specifically, but get to the bottom of the numbers. And looking at these numbers, it's a very clear picture why when you see a product that's new and sharply priced, why you're competing for it, number one, and just how many of them in the 20% and high teens are going into multiples, but over 50% of everything that's coming to market in both segments of the market now are selling in under 2 weeks and under 30 days for the condo. Sorry, both of them, no, under 2 weeks. So it's busy, and breaking down these numbers will really paint that picture easily. So this is stuff you should be going through with your appropriate agents.
Yeah, so to put it in perspective, if you're looking and starting your search and there are 5 properties that you want to look at and you're keen on, you essentially have 2 weeks before you're left with 2, possibly 3 of those properties still available to you, if those are the ones that you want. Yeah. So you're dropping 50% of, if you don't act within the first 2 weeks and get it done, you're dropping 50% of what's available to you. And sometimes there are only 1 or 2 properties that suit exactly what you're looking for.
Of course, yeah.
Hence you get into that holding pattern and sit.
And for sellers, just finally, you need to understand that all the days on market, all the times you've come on market, gone off market, change your price, this is all public information, not directly, but definitely through the agents that these buyers are working for. So keep that in mind. Days on market don't help you. So just be proactive and price sharply the first time, and get that 20% or 17% cluster going around your property to try and get it into in the range that you can, perfect world, get multiples yourself and be a happy camper.
That's it. And guys,
listen to the market.
That's it. See you later.